we host webinars and panels like this every weekend. You can find an archive for all our past events, as well as a schedule for future events on our website at www.milliegroup.com. If you want to keep up to date with what we have to offer, follow us on Instagram at Millie_group. So here's how today's panel is going to look. We have some pre-prepared questions, but you can always submit your questions. For the first 45 minutes or so, we'll go through our pre-prepared questions, and after that, we'll let the panelists answer your questions. Your questions can be general questions for everyone, or you could direct them to specific panelists. Either is fine. All right, so let's get started. Could each panelist please introduce themselves? Please tell us your name, the city you're currently in and are from, your job role and where you work or what you study, and one fun fact about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Mathieu Le Boucher King. I currently live in New York and I'm originally from a small town in Ohio. I work right now at Alpha Sites, a leader in the knowledge on demand industry, as a senior manager in platform operations. I was originally hired to build up their translation services, and I now oversee 65% of global transcript production, which is a key service within the industry that we provide to clients, as well as global translation and interpretation services. And fun fact about myself, I was a first generation college student, so I've been kind of blazing the trail in my family for a long time now.
Good afternoon, good morning to everyone who's listening us today. My name is Victor Jaman. I come from Poland, and I'm currently a student at the dual BA program between Sciences Po Paris, however, in the Le Havre campus, and Columbia University. I'm a freshman student, so I just started recently in September. And my interests include history and politics predominantly. Obviously, that is why Sciences Po is my choice in my university currently. And I'm very happy to join you today. As for a fun fact about myself, I am the only Polish student at my campus, and talking about both the 1As, so the freshman, and the 2As in the bachelor's degree, which makes me, well, special in that way. But that's very interesting to be the only Polish student here in Le Havre.
Hey, nice. So I'm Lauren. I'm a third year student right now from Tahiti, French Polynesia. So I'm French. Like Victor, I'm from the Off campus, but I already graduated from there. So I'm doing a dual degree between Sciences Po and the National University of Singapore. So right now I'm in Singapore studying my third year. So yeah.
Thank you
And also
much.
a fun fact about me is that people in Singapore think I'm Singaporean, where in France people didn't think that I was French. So yeah.
Thank you so much for those wonderful introductions. All right, so let's get started with our question. Up first, when you were choosing a university, what personal feeling or observation helped you trust a particular place that help you decide that a particular place was the right fit for you? Could you speak to us about your experience?
Absolutely. So to give a bit of context, I studied French and German as a double major at Georgetown, and then I did a master's in sociolinguistics at La Sorbonne Nouvelle in Paris. And when choosing university, something that was very important to me was a high standard of excellence and a reputation in the country for being a top university. That was something that was very important for me. And when touring Georgetown, when hearing about the curriculum and the expectations, I understood very quickly that it was an institute where I felt very privileged to study.
So as for me, why I chose Sciences Po and this dual degree where I am today, I really looked at different aspects in this question about choosing the university. First of all, I wanted to get an education which would be divided between two countries, and therefore I am in this program where I am in 2 years in France at the beginning in the city of Le Havre, as I mentioned before, and then 2 years in the city of New York at Columbia University. And second of all, what was very important to me was that the program that I'm going to have in terms of political science and government, which I will probably be majoring next year, was that it is connected to Asia. And why Asia? Because through this program and through having a focus on the Asia Pacific minor, which is present in Le Havre, I am able to encompass 3 different places at once, 3 different places during my bachelor's degree, which is Europe, which is America, where I will be living, and it's also Asia, which I'm studying about and which is the focus of my study. Therefore, I aimed at applying and getting into a university which is renowned for politics and government and international relations, which is Sciences Po, as well as a school that is going to be in America, and school that is going to allow me to experience international relations through different people and different cultures.
As for me, for my parents, it was really important that I still had a French degree, but I also wanted to go abroad. So this dual degree was the perfect structure for me to be able to experience the best of both worlds. And also what is really important to me is extracurricular activities. And while talking to students from Sciences Po Le Havre, our extracurricular system is like quite diverse and also really active. And I actually ended up spending more like equal time both in academics and doing dance or artistic activities. So that was something that was really important to me as well.
You've all slightly touched on the prestige of your academic institution, respectively. Now, how would you describe the overall academic culture of your institution? Could you touch into that?
Absolutely. Looking at Georgetown in particular, my experience was a little bit different because I was doing a double major in 2 different languages. And the language departments at Georgetown are known to be very rigorous and very demanding course load. So I had kind of double what the standard language student would have. But within all of those courses, there was a very clear high bar set for what success looks like, and achieving that standard required a lot of work, a lot of hours. I believe they said for every hour of course that you have, you should expect up to 3 hours of preparation, homework, exam writing. But there was also a good balance of culture of support where the professors were highly invested in the success of each of their students and were willing to meet with them outside of class, set up different events to help build the skill sets that were being talked about in courses. So it was a very good balance, but required a lot of work and self-discipline.
So what I can say about the academic situation and academic culture here at Sciences Po is definitely to touch up on what Lauren was talking about before. And actually where she said that she was able to balance this academic life with, for example, additional activities, extracurricular activities. And I believe this is a beautiful thing about Sciences Po, because this is an opportunity that you have at this university. On the one hand, you have a very high level of academics. You have really the best people in terms of politics and government, as well as international relations, experts coming from different parts of France, because they come from Paris, and not only from France, they are people from really all over the world, and they come into our university in order to teach us these things. But on the other hand, you are able to balance your academic life and your extracurriculars. For instance, I personally play volleyball, but I also do MUN here at Le Havre, and I am perfectly fine in terms of balancing my academic life, which I believe I have pretty good grades here at Sciences Po, and to be able to also enjoy my extracurriculars. What I can also say is that I personally come from a quite demanding program in my high school, which was the IB program. I believe many of you will be familiar with that program. And in comparison to the IB program, I would honestly say that Sciences Po is easier for me. Maybe this is because of the balance that I'm able to create, and because I'm studying things that are interesting me in a whole, and IB as a more diverse community in terms of what you are studying. But surely Sciences Po is a great place in terms of this balance, and this is something that I really value about this university.
Yeah, totally agree with Victor when he said that. But I feel like also because our campus was the Asian Pacific campus, a lot of us have the Asian mentality of working. So it also depends on the campus, I'd say. But it's true that in Le Havre, people always like give their best to work, but also in association. And because Sciences Po will leave basically the Thursday afternoon, usually free for you to have your activities. So that also helped balancing both.
Now let's talk about your first few days as a university student. In your first months as a student, what helped you adapt most quickly to an unfamiliar academic environment? Or perhaps was this an environment that you were familiar with in high school or in a previous institution? Could you touch us onto about that experience?
Yes, at Georgetown, for me in particular, I was really kind of diving into unfamiliar territory. Again, first generation college student, so I really did not have a preconceived notion of what university life would be like. And starting at Georgetown, the student body is very, I would say, wealthy, high history of, prestigious families going to prestigious universities. And so I definitely stuck out as being a bit different from the rest of the student body. And so adapting most quickly, I just really immersed myself in my studies because I knew that that's where I felt the most comfortable and where I could really speak for myself and carve out a place for me in this university. So leaning into that and interacting with my classmates in these courses and my professors, that helped me really adapt to this new environment in a way that I don't think would have been possible had I not resonated so well with the coursework.
So for me, the situation was actually even, I believe, more complex because I had to appear in a new country. All of this happened to me, a couple months ago because, as I said, I am a freshman. So I suddenly appear in France, in a smaller town in my case, because as I said before, I study in Le Havre, and you get these questions in your head. What are you going to do? How are you going to meet new friends? How is university going to be? Am I even going to pass? Everything just gets into your head. However, to be honest, Sciences Po and our campus here in Le Havre does a great and marvelous job at really helping and supporting all the students. The first few weeks of university, especially, we have community events that make it possible to meet new friends, that make it possible to talk to all the people here at the campus. The different associations are very well organized in that case, and it was very easy for me to actually meet my closest friends with whom I am friends today. And I believe that this was how our my journey here, was made easier and what made me adapt quickly to this life in France. Also, I believe that the life in France here is quite similar in terms of uh, its different values as we have it in Poland, and that's what made it easy as well. But I know that people who are from different cultures, because we have many Asian people, we have people of different backgrounds, they also have it quite easy. They adapted easily into the life here in Le Havre.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Why it's so easy for us to actually be more comfortable in Sciences Po is because we have a really small student body. It's maximum 300 people on the same campus at the same time. So it's so easy to just meet people, and they really make sure that it's easy for you, especially on the first week, as Victor mentioned, because they also just put a lot of effort into the events during the first few weeks. And everyone is just really open-minded in general, and so easy. You could just go and talk to everyone, and everyone is kind of in the same basket because half of your half of the student body will also be freshmen coming in.
Hi, sorry, Lauren, I think you have a bit of mic issues. Can you try speaking into it now?
Does it work now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Perfect.
Sorry. No, but yeah, I was just saying that this small format was really helping us with that.
Perfect. Awesome. Now, staying on the same vein of academics, what did you do early on that helped you get the most out of your classes? Thought from different academic traditions or perspective? Was there even any change that you noticed? Perhaps maybe being in dual degrees or coming from different, having to do different courses or classes. Did you notice anything different about the way that they approach learning and things of that sort?
For me, to get the most out of my classes, I really tried connecting with the professors. I think that's a very important dynamic in the United States in particular. We have this opportunity to get close to our professors in a way that is harder in France, for example. Again, doing my master's in France, and I also attended a year of high school in France. There's a very big wall between students and professors, and connecting with them in that way is usually not appropriate. Whereas in the States and a lot of universities, it's almost expected that you connect on a personal level and you are able to have another dynamic to your courses because you're getting to know your professor, what they expect of you. And that's something that I really leaned into in terms of academic traditions. Again, understanding that the bar was set very high at Georgetown, I understood quickly that in order to succeed, I had to follow that tradition of really putting in the work to produce, whether it's a paper that I'm writing or a discourse I was preparing for. I just knew that I needed to give it 1000%, or else I would not compare to the students around me. So really leaned into that culture and set that as almost a challenge for myself to stand out amongst the students in my courses.
In terms of how I view it here at Sciences Po, the most important thing is to never let yourself not do a part of a course. And what I mean about this might feel like I mean that you shouldn't go and have a student life, normal social life, but this is not what I mean. What I mean by this is that if you have a lecture, for instance, first of all, you have to attend the lecture because there's many information that are going to be useful, and the professors really provide these information in a very concise and understandable way. Therefore, it makes it easier to study the information in the lecture instead of doing it yourself at home. And secondly, what is important in terms of these academic traditions and studying for your courses is to regularly work. So, for example, we had our midterms just about a month ago, and thanks to the fact that I was able to study before and will study regularly, I was also able to not stress about these midterms that much. There's some people who would rather do everything for the last moment, and I understand this vision as well. However, this is very hard to do because the amount of information is very large, and if you do something from class to class, you're able to actually ace the midterms and get a very good grade. And therefore, I believe this is the biggest secret in terms of Sciences Po. But I also agree with what Mathieu said about Georgetown. This is also present at Sciences Po, that this connection with the professor is very crucial to your results. And especially in the seminars, the professors are very engaging. They are very good professors. They can explain the material in detail. So you can never be afraid to ask them a question. You can never be afraid of making a mistake, because some people are really afraid of that. However, this is not the solution. It's always better to ask. They're always willing to explain. And this is a great thing about Sciences Po, that they actually value the student and value the fact that they want to comprehend and want to get more knowledge on the topic.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of the advice that were provided before. And if I could add one thing, it would be to talk to your peers about it, because everyone has knowledge their own, and just by combining the knowledge, I feel like you could get some aspect of the course that you couldn't get by yourself. And this, in addition to talking to the professors, I think it just makes, a great mix of, a great way of being able to tackle your courses better.
Now, moving on a little bit from the academics, looking back, what did you misjudge about what university life would be like beyond academics? I know we touched on a little bit about like the possibility of making friends or things of that sort, but if there's anything else that you'd like to add about what it was like for you personally?
Yes, so Georgetown has a very interesting, I believe we called it the Georgetown bubble, because Georgetown is situated on a hill compared to the rest of DC, and it's a little bit far. You can't take the metro to get there It's not super accessible. You're in this small community. Again, it's a very affluent area of DC to where you feel like it's a self-contained culture. And the university itself is also has walls around it. So again, it feels very isolated. But I also think that's a big strength of Georgetown that you are living with your peers in this community, and it almost feels like a small town in and of itself. On the campus, there are student-run coffee shops, there are student-run grocery stores, so you can really just live this entire existence on campus. That was something I was not expecting, and it felt like I could connect with the university in a very dynamic way. Um, and that really boosted I would say the enjoyment I got out of my time at Georgetown, really feeling like Georgetown wasn't just a university. It was a small town. It was a lifestyle, as cliche as that sounds. And that again was not what I was expecting whatsoever.
So a big misjudgment for me personally, and I believe for many international students at Sciences Po, is the fact that when I came to Le Havre, I was terrified of the fact that I'm in France in the case that I had to use the French language. I was afraid that I would be in some way forced to use this language, even though I didn't speak French, because I personally am not fluent in the language. And I know that many students at our campus, because I believe Le Havre is the most international out of all campuses at Sciences Po. I was afraid that living in the city and everyday life is going to be hard. However, this is completely not the case at Sciences Po. First of all, you become students with French people who boost your French knowledge, because French is obviously one of the subjects if you do not speak French at school, if you do not speak French personally. However, secondly, in the city, everybody, and in France in general, everything can be done in English. Everything is very internationalized in that way. All the lessons and all the seminars, lectures at the campus are also in English. So it's not a problem if you do not speak French. I was very afraid of that, and I was really positively surprised, not only of the fact that I do not need this high level of French to live here, but also of the fact that there is a big support for the people who do not speak the French language, and there is a support for you to study and learn this language. So this was definitely a misjudgment and something that surprised me here.
Yeah, once again, what really surprised me is that I didn't think I would spend that much time on extracurricular activities. But yeah, just the campus is so vivid in general, and to have such an active student life was quite unreal to me, because you could still be walking on campus at 9 p.m. and see a cheerleading training going on in the middle of the hallway, and have the veggies basket from one of our association standing right here. And there's just so much things happening and encouraging you to try out new activities and new things. So yeah.
Now, being in dual degree programs, I'm sure you can gain a lot from different academic experiences and things of that sort. But now, how can a student learn to balance the being open to many fields while also still building something depth in specific?
This is a great question. I think it's a very delicate balance to strike, especially when you have such demanding coursework in your field of specialty. However, I think that universities are set up very well in intending to give you exposure to many different topics, which is why we have prerequisites, forces you to do, math, different science courses, even if you are majoring in a language. And I, th I think really investing in those courses, even if they're not your specific field of interest, is so important, because it really broadens your understanding of the world and also exposes you to other students who might be, in that math course because that's their major, and you get to know about them and their interests. So not really not dropping the ball on those courses, and really putting your full energy into those prerequisites the same way you would into the courses that are your specific field of interest, I think is a really great way to balance the two.
So balance is a key word when talking about Sciences Po, because I believe that this university has honestly mastered this in terms of your interest and in terms of building something in depth. And let me break it down. Why is it that way? Either talking about the dual degree or talking about the classic Sciences Po. I'm going to maybe start about the classic Sciences Po. The first year here is quite much an introductory year. What that means is that the first semester you have general classes. The second semester you select your classes, but it's in the second year when you choose your major. So personally, for instance, I do not have a major as of now. I have very general knowledge, but connected obviously with international relations and politics and humanities as well. And only in the second year will I choose my major, which I will be focusing on. So building in depth on, for instance, politics and government, which I will probably choose, but there's also economics and society and politics and humanities, completely different fields. And you have this year to decide where you want to go in depth. And finally, both in the dual degree, or if you are a student of just Sciences Po, the third year is always going to be in a different place. So you transfer to a completely different university, either in a dual degree, like I will transfer to the city of New York and Columbia in 2 years, or you select your university if you're just a Sciences Po student, not a dual degree student. Thus, I believe that Sciences Po has really mastered this vision of a balanced education, an education where on the one hand you get a general education which is very deep itself in these different fields connected to IR, but on the other hand, a very deep education in something that you choose yourself, and that is really what Sciences Po does, and is very good for the balance.
Yeah, totally agree. And especially once you get a good grasp of those introductory courses, you start to build bridges between them, and you get to see how all of them are related together, which form this interesting framework. And I feel like it also helps that Sciences Po, I mean, our campus was focused on Asian Pacific, because we will push really deeper on this region in general. And now talking about my dual degree also at NUS, one of our requisite is to take coding for political science. And at first I was a bit surprised having to take coding, but it's actually a skill that is so useful, and you can connect so many things to one discipline that, yeah, just you need to have this broad vision to be able to go also more in depth in your major.
And let's delve a little bit deeper into making the most of your academic experience. Now, one thing that students tell us very common for all students of all institutions to do is to go to office hours or try to connect with teachers and networking events or things of that sort. How can a student build genuine curiosity that professors recognize and respond to and really make that connection? Do you have any experiences that you would like to share about your experience?
Yes, so this is something that I touched on earlier about really connecting with the professors. And at Georgetown, the professors, as I said, are so invested in the students. They often host different events. I had a German professor who hosted a cooking class in her house and invited us over. And the entire session was in German, where we were learning different words for different, plates that we were making and so forth. And that was such a unique experience to be able to connect with her in that way. And I had another German professor who also hosted, I believe it was like a wine hour at his house. And that's, again, such a wonderful way to connect with the professors and also the other students in your courses. So taking those opportunities, because they're often optional, is so important to adding that extra dimension to your studies, and having that curiosity to understand more about what you're studying. Courses aren't just there for you to get a grade and move on. It's really an opportunity for you to engage with a subject matter in a very deep way. So beyond that, I would say regular participation in class is so important to show the professor that you are really actively engaging with what they're saying, that you've put in the time to reflect on the coursework and on the questions that they may be asking. That is how you can really stand out as someone to stand out to the professor, that you are, someone who's very interested in what they're saying.
So I agree that this is very important. This is a very important question in general. How can one build this genuine curiosity and show it to the professor and actually contribute to their university degree? And therefore, this is possible at Sciences Po as well. We have both talking about lectures and talking about seminars. We have very active professors who love doing things and are very passionate about what they are talking about. And therefore, I surely agree with what Mathieu said about what is happening in Georgetown in terms of your class participation in seminars. This is very important because seminars are obviously in smaller groups, and therefore it's important that you connect with these professors, show them that you're interested in a specific subject, and they are going to connect with you in terms of that. However, there are many different projects here at Sciences Po that you can engage in, and simply by either talking to the professor after the lecture or even emailing them that you need their help, that you're interested in that you want them to help you build on this topic, they are going to help and contribute to your project and contribute to your development of knowledge. And therefore, I believe this is something that happens at Sciences Po. These professors are really happy to help you, whichever subject that is, whether they're seminar or lecture professors. They're really very, very, very qualified people in these fields and passionate about what they are teaching, and therefore it's very easy to show them that you're interested if you're genuinely interested in the subject.
Yeah, so bouncing back on what Matthew said about joining external event and things like that, I feel like it's important to also seek out for opportunities that could involve professors. So for instance, in Sciences Po, I joined the Junior Research Initiative, which was featuring our law professors mostly. So I had a chance to write a paper that was mentored by one of our amazing law teachers on freedom of expression in environmental context. And this is a year-long project, so we had to be constantly in touch with our professor for that. And because we don't really do proper law in Sciences Po, it was also a way of discovering another project. I mean, another subject that we weren't really familiar with, but in the end, yeah, we managed to write it, so it's fine. But yeah, lots of small opportunities like that should definitely be important to, yeah, to be curious.
Thank you so much for that. Now, speaking of anecdotes, let's touch into, can you recall a classroom moment that forced you to question an assumption that you had about academics, the world at large, or just about the institution or your particular classes in general? Is there anything that you'd like to share in that regard?
Yeah, something that comes to mind for me, in the German department, I had the opportunity to take a master's German course as an undergrad student. So everyone else in the course were there for their master's. I was the only undergrad there. But they offered it to undergrads who wanted to have the extra challenge of a higher level course. And my expectation going into that was the the attitude within the course would have been very different from the undergrad courses I was taking. In a way, it was in terms of how the course was run, how the conversations were held. But at the same time, it was an extremely welcoming environment. And I think the fact that I was the only undergrad in that course really worked to my advantage in terms of obviously my German wasn't as strong as the master's students, but I had the same methodology that they had in terms of preparing for courses, and even excelled beyond some of the master's students whenever it came to writing dissertations or doing some kind of analysis of literature that we were studying. And so this really made me question my assumption about what you can get out of classes, what is expected of you, and how you can unlock success in different environments where the standards may be different because they're different levels. It really showed me that success is really in your hands, and you can really put yourself in any environment. And as long as you have the drive and the tools to succeed, you have a chance to really carve out your place and show that you are, that you compare with the other students, even if you're at a different level.
So for me, I will share an anecdote from my history seminar that was quite, well, it was not quite recent. It was at the beginning of the year, the first history seminar. And since in the first year we have the history of the 19th century, the professor stated a thesis. He said that he believes that the 19th century is a century of peace and stability. And therefore, me as a Polish person, knowing the history of my own country and knowing the history of different uprisings that have taken place in the 19th century and the fight against our enemies at that time, I decided to argue with the professor. In that case, I decided to ask him and question him and really talk about this thesis during class. And instead of being mad at me or being in some way, well, disengaged by our conversation, he was actually supportive of that. He said that this is the essence of the class. This type of argument, which is obviously a respectful argument on different points that we see in terms of history, this was vital to our conversation. And this really changed my view and assumption about academics. Instead of just blatantly and completely solely listening to what the professor says and noting different things in your notebook or your computer and not really looking at this critically, at Sciences Po, and what Sciences Po gives you is this possibility to actually critically look at the world. You have so many international students, you have people of different backgrounds, of different views, of different opinions, and this is what Sciences Po really gives you, this possibility to share these views and to battle these views, to see that people have different perspectives on the world since they are brought up in different countries. And this is the beauty of this university. This is the assumption that I now have of this university. It's just perfect in terms of the widening of one's knowledge. And this is very important in terms of international relations and politics in the future.
Yeah, once again, so I don't have a specific moment I can recall, but I would just emphasize on this building bridges between subject, because you can just see a notion or a concept in one subject and then it just reminds you of something that you've been taught last semester, and maybe in another perspective then it is taught in this other course. So yeah, I feel like keeping an open-minded view of academics and viewing a course as it is, but also how it could relate to other is really interesting.
You've all talked about what it's like studying alongside people of different cultural backgrounds or heritages and stuff. Now, how does that impact the way that you have thought or the way that you learn or your experiences in university? Could you share us about some of your experiences on that?
I think this is such an important part of going to university in general, is that you meet people from all around the world, different experiences. And what's so valuable in university life is that you're not only learning from the professor, you're learning from the students around you, hearing the way that they defend their point of view in class. Like Victor was saying, Georgetown has the same environment where it's not there's no right answer when we're discussing something in class. It's entirely a debate. A lot of the classes at Georgetown are built for that. For example, the prerequisite religion courses we have to take, because Georgetown is a Jesuit university, are called the problem of God. And so it's a question about what religion is. Even though the university is religious, it doesn't force you to have that mindset. And so discussing religious conversation, for example, with students from all backgrounds who don't necessarily share even an inkling of religion that you've grown up in, was so interesting and really broadens your horizon and understanding of the world.
So as I mentioned before, Le Havre is a very international campus. I believe the most international. However, looking at the other campuses, both with dual degrees and just French degrees, such as Nancy, Poitiers, Menton, or even Paris itself, you see that there are students from different countries. And this is the essence of this university. It's very important for Sciences Po itself to have students from different countries, not only French people, not only people, for example, from Asia in our degree, which focuses on the Asia Pacific minor. However, what is important about these different national or cultural backgrounds is that you not only see these other perspectives on the world, but you can also share your own culture and experience the other cultures as if you're in that country. And let me give you an example. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a celebration, a little late, however, we had a celebration of the Diwali, which is the Indian celebration. And through this celebration, we not only learned about the Indian culture and different dances connected to the Indian culture, but participants from different countries were able to present their own culture. And this shows the diversity and the different cultures at Sciences Po and how you are able to actually learn about these different cultures. Honestly, I personally believe that learning about different countries, different values, different beliefs is easiest when you're talking to people who actually have these beliefs or have this different origin. And therefore, Sciences Po in general, about personally also the LOAF campus, is a perfect place to learn this because you have students from literally anywhere. As I said, I'm the only Polish student, but you have people from every country, in probably every country in the world in the history of Sciences Po.
Yeah, totally agree. And I feel so privileged being able to experience such diversity in Sciences Po and also comparing it to Singapore. This is both are really different ways of studying. Also, the interaction between people was so different when I was in France and now in Singapore. But I feel you can get so much benefits from both. So yeah, just about you assessing the differences and be able to interiorize what benefits you the best.
Now, we've just talked about the beauty of diversity and community, but it is very commonplace in prestigious university like the ones you guys attend to turn everything into competition. What's a way to distinguish yourself from in a high achieving environment without turning everything into competition? Or do you believe that competition is the only way to do so?
This is a great question, and I think something that a lot of students battle with. When attending Georgetown, for my first 3 years, I had a 4.0, which is pretty rare at Georgetown to maintain that for so long. And then the moment that broke, I think I literally cried because I got an A minus in the class instead of an A. But for me, it was all about that internal competition, but I understood that that wasn't healthy. And having the highest grades in classes was not the way that I was going to succeed. Again, it was about what I got out of it. And so distinguishing yourself within this environment was really about how you challenged yourself and participated in certain classes, went above and beyond. I did do an honors thesis in the French department, which is optional. And that was a way for me to really stand out as someone who's deeply interested in the subject matter, who wants to do the extra work to distinguish myself as a student across the student body. So there are ways to add dimension and really achieve high results without it necessarily being tied to results or comparative results with the students around you.
So Sciences Po in general and Sciences Po Le Havre is like a basket with opportunities for yourself to distinguish yourselves from the other students. And this is through the different associations and different possibilities that this university offers. Not only do we have different associations which are connected to sport, to culture, to more official parts of life, but also the school offers so many different projects, so many different opportunities and internships and work possibilities in general, that it's very easy to distinguish yourself from different students. As I personally said, I am part of the MUN club, and I do organize the Le Havre Model United Nations, which is going to be held in our city. So this was one way of distinguishing myself because I have been active in the MUN community in my own country. However, it's not only about Sciences Po, because in France in general, there's a great possibility to distinguish yourself if you want to actually do it, if you want to do something extra and become somebody who is you're either renowned for it or somebody who does something better in terms of something new, it's really easy to do it. I personally became an ambassador for the community of Polish students here in France, because this community is very strong in France. However, there are associations for this for every country pretty much, and taking part in this is also important. For me, this is a possibility to distinguish myself, but also my cultural background is a way of distinguishing myself. The moment you come to Sciences Po, you're basically somebody that is interesting to the other students, because you're from a different background, you're from a different country. Everybody wants to know how the lifestyle is there, what is the culture, what is something surprising, what is the history. There's so many things, and quite literally, every student is one of their own at this university. It's really rare to have students who are pretty much the same or inactive in terms of what they're doing. But as I said, through these clubs, through these associations, and even through your cultural background, you're able to distinguish yourself very easily. However, to finish what I want to say, all these things are not done through competition, but actually through support. This was, to be honest, quite surprising for me at the beginning, because I personally know that in high school, for instance, many things are done through this competition and through this belief that, oh, I have to be the best and better than other people. However, here at this university, I and my friends and many people around me, we support each other in these things. We know that we are doing it for the better of the community, for the general improvement of the community. And this is something great about Sciences Po in general, and Le Havre in general as well, that we, the students, we support each other, and it's not a competition, but it's through support that all of this is created.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sciences Po is such a healthy environment. When I compare it to Singapore, it's really competitive. As Victor said, it was not competitive, it was support based, and even basic things such as cooking. People would be actually happy to know about your cooking skills and things like that. And everyone on campus has a way to shine, and I feel it's the same for every human in the world. Everyone has some subject or some activities they're more confident in, and they can share with other people. And that was what was really beautiful about Sciences Po, yeah.
Now let's talk about your daily routine during your time at university. What day-to-day habit helped you more than you expected, even if it didn't seem important at the time? This could be related to your academics, your mental health, or anything of the sort.
So I have two answers to this question. The first one is I worked alongside my studies at Georgetown. Every morning, I would usually wake up around 5 and work for 3 to 4 hours before my classes. And just having that extracurricular work experience was so important, not only because it helped me fund my studies, but also it helped really instill this pride in the fact that I was single-handedly really in charge of my success in terms of funding my studies. So I think that's so important to have that extra experience when you're at a university. Working alongside your studies is very important and helps build real-world experience that helped me essentially achieve the role that I'm at today. And then also I would say, just daily studying, as mundane as that sounds, forcing yourself to sit down and study, review the material you discussed in class. At Georgetown, we have very frequent measures of progression in classes. A lot of French universities, for example, you have 1 or 2 big tests a year or a semester, and that measures your success. Whereas at Georgetown, it was often 1 dissertation a week, or every other week was an actual formal discourse you had to give. And so there's a lot of work that has to be put into preparing that. And just like Victor said, there are those students that have the mindset of, oh, I'll do this the day before, or I have time to prepare for that. But having the discipline on a daily basis to sit down, for me, it was usually 4 or 5 hours a day that I would sit down and very intentionally review my courses, get prepared for the next scheduled project we were going to be doing. And that at the time did not feel necessarily important. It felt necessary, but it didn't feel like something that was really, stand out from anyone else. But looking back on it, it was really the key that unlocked my preparation for and really allowed me to succeed in the courses that I was in.
So I personally agree definitely about the part about studying with Mathieu. This is very important to do something, at least even if you're very tired, to do something every day, because otherwise you're just simply not going to catch up with what is in the courses. Even if it's the tiniest, smallest thing, smallest reading for a seminar, it's always best to do something every day. However, I have two important aspects in my routine, weekly routine actually, that are very vital to me and to how I function at the university. First of all, is joining an association. It's always fun to join an association. We have a club fair that allows us to really pick from so many different interests. It's really impossible to choose just one club. I personally, as I said, volleyball and MUN, these are the two activities I do here regularly. Thus, I have the volleyball club every Wednesday, and I also participate in the MUN meetings personally in well, every week. So I have this drive towards volleyball. I have to go to the high school where we play volleyball, and I actually go there and meet the people and have a really fun time with them. But on the other hand, the very important thing in my case that has to be highlighted, I believe, is that although you have to work a lot, obviously, because you're at a university, and at a university which has a big name, which means that it's a very prestigious university in terms of your studies, you also need to know when to rest. This is extremely important. You need to know that you cannot just study, because just studying is, first of all, you're not experiencing university, because university in student life is not just about studying. It's about having friends. It's about going to the party. Sometimes it's about doing something that is not solely studying. So, for example, in my case, I always leave Friday and the Friday afternoon for rest and for something, for a possibility of recuperation, of spending time with my friends. Although I also spend time with my friends during the week. Friday is a day where after school I do not study. I believe this is a healthy work-life balance, because this allows me to then focus on the weekend and study for the things that are for the next week. However, Friday, as I said, is free, and I believe this is surely doable in all the situations, and that is a habit that I personally have and really, really supports my mission here at this university.
Okay, so one advice I would give is when you just get like into college, you can take some time to discover your routine. So for instance, I'm like so admirative of Matthew's 5 a.m. routine, but I know it wouldn't work for me, for instance, because I know I focus better around 6 p.m. So my work time is usually from 6 p.m. onward, which don't necessarily allow me to wake up that early, but that's the lifestyle I found work best for me. So don't pressure yourself too much on the first month, and try to just get what works the best for you. And the day-to-day habit that I would recommend for everyone is actually get in touch with people around you, talk to your peers, because it can be great to socialize and to just take a break out of your study, but also it can help with your studying. And I only started really studying with some of my peers during my second year at Sciences Po, and I really could see the difference in my results and even in my general understanding, because studying doesn't have to be daunting every time. So yeah.
Now, we've touched on the importance of having extracurricular or things that we do outside of our academics. Now, how can students help choose their extracurriculars or communities or associations that generally support their growth rather than just decorate their resume? This could be purely professional or career-based, but it could also just be a personal thing. Could you share about your experience?
Yes, Georgetown is very well known for the expectation that you do some kind of internship throughout your last 2 years. And something that was important for me was not necessarily finding an internship for the sake of it. Again, I was also working alongside my studies, so my time was pretty limited in terms of what I could dedicate to an internship. But I did find I ended up not technically interning, but actually working for the German Historical Institution in DC as a research assistant to the director. And finding something that was directly related to my studies was so valuable to me because I was using my German. I was doing research in German. This helped me in my courses. So finding an extracurricular, whether that's an association or an internship that really appeals to you, not just because it's an impressive internship, is going to allow you to get so much more out of it. And then you are also going to be able to carry that knowledge into your courses. And it still looks really good on your resume because you are doing something outside of class and it shows intentionality.
So I pretty much answered this question to some extent in the previous question, as I said about the club fair. And what is the club fair? The club fair is a day at Sciences Po, where all the different clubs, associations at the university present themselves to the students and allow them to see how they work and how they function and what they do. And therefore, this is what really Sciences Po does. It allows its students to get deeper and deepen their knowledge or their interest in a specific topic. These clubs range from both sports to through academic clubs to cooking clubs to cultural clubs. Everything is really accessible at Sciences Po. And therefore, I believe that this is the biggest and most important thing in terms of broadening your CV and your resume, because Sciences Po really allows you to choose yourself what do you want to deepen in and what do you want to broaden in, because on the one hand you might do something academic if that is what interests you. You might become a journalist for the LDD, as our newspaper is called, or you might become a player for the football club, or you might become the leader of the East Asian Society. But this really depends solely on you. If you want to focus more academically, then you do it. Then you choose an academic club. But if you rather would like to do something more that is more chill and that is connected to sports or culture, then go ahead and you can just select it. And Sciences Po, as I said again, does a great job at providing these opportunities, literally laying them on the table for you to select for yourself.
Yeah, and I think I can add an illustration to what Victor just said. So in Sciences Po, so I was a dance captain, but for more urban styles. And then I tried out Chinese dance just to try it out. And now in Singapore, I'm actually under the Singaporean Conservatory for Chinese dance. And here we're really pushing the studying of Chinese dance, because I'm learning a lot about the culture, and also just broadening even my knowledge of dance, although I thought I was already quite advanced on that. But for Chinese dance, it actually requires a lot of muscles and strength that I may not have been using in other styles. So yeah, it's just about keeping your options open. And once you found something that you really like and that you have the opportunity to push more in depth, that is both good for yourself and your resume, then I guess it's the perfect match. And I'm so grateful that Sospo gave me this opportunity.
We are running short on time, so we'll just end it off with one more question. We spoke of many different advices and the counsel to do with all things in the life of university. What is one advice that you would say in person to a student who's generally seeking direction and which institution to choose?
This is a very good question. I would always suggest to shoot for the stars. Apply for that university that's really hard to get into. Um, follow what is speaking to you. Georgetown really spoke to me from the first time I stepped on the campus. I understood the challenge it would be to be accepted there, and I really put in the work in terms of the application process and studying before the entry exams and so forth. So don't be afraid to apply to a university you don't think you're going to get into. Really, nothing is inaccessible if you can put in the time to really show your merit as you are applying through different dissertations you need to write. I think the application processes are really good at highlighting students' interest and their valor as they're trying to apply. So definitely shoot for the stars.
So I believe I can be a good bridge in terms of this question between both Sciences Po and Georgetown, as I've applied to both schools actually last year, as I was applying to get into one of these schools as well. And I believe in terms of the two schools, both of these schools are very great institutions. Both Georgetown and Sciences Po specialize in political science and international relations. They are perfect places for you if you want to study these in these fields. But let me talk about Sciences Po right now, because I can tell you something about this university. If you're a student who really wants to experience different cultures, who really wants to meet very many international students, who wants to make these connections with people from different countries, who wants to find not only cultural, but I would say this emotional support from the university. But if you're also a person who believes that this, I would say, diversity and this changing of places, of changing of how you study, this dynamic style is for you, this university is surely a great choice for you. This is a school that really pushes forward this belief on different views, this belief in international study, but also in this dynamic change that you have all the time, every year. And I believe this is a great school for you. Both of you apply just as a Sciences Po student, but also if you consider Sciences Po, do check out all the dual degrees that are available, because I believe there is 8 or 9 dual degrees right now at the university. So it's a great opportunity for you to experience different places as well.
The one thing that really helped me was talking to people, but most specifically, the current students that are in the university you want to apply to. Because, so I joined the webinars on Sciences Po, like they were led by students, but I also got in touch with some actual students. And I think they bring you so much more perspective into what your life is going to be if you get in, like, especially for me, for the extracurricular activities, right? And they also give you so much advice, and that just shapes your application in general, because that changes your motivation to get in. You can also show that there's some other things that you know about the institution that most people may not know because it's not on the Sciences Po website. So yeah, that's definitely something I would recommend.
We are at the end of our time, but thank you so much to our panelists for spending the time today. Wonderful insight into the breadth of area to specialize in, what the key highlights are, as well as some things to watch out for in the realm of Georgetown and Sciences Po. So thank you so much for being so open and honest. Thank you also to the viewers. I'm sure you can all agree that our amazing panelists have done a fantastic job and provided some crucial information to guide decision-making around your next steps. Once again, if you need any help with university and career guidance, do check out our website and Instagram. With that said, one huge thank you to our panelists. Thank you so much.